Welcome, everyone, to another episode of At the Table podcast. My name's Isaiah Hernandez. I am your co-host of today's episode, along with my guest co-host, Dina Brannan, founder and CEO of Table Media Group.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here today to talk about this exciting topic. So I want to introduce our guest. His name is Kevin Yang. He is a graduate of Stanford, and he is the co-founder of Serif. Serif is an AI executive assistant that focuses on saving people like me, CEOs, leadership managers, time on their email. I'm actually not just the co-host today, I'm a client as well of his. I use the service. So this is why I really wanted to have a conversation with him. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, can you do us a favor and just give us a little bit about yourself, some background about you and Serif, and then we can, kind of get into our questions.
Yeah, of course. I can let me do like an abridged background.
Sure.
So I'm Kevin. I was born in North Carolina. And then when I was like 2 or 3, I moved over to Arizona. I spent most of my childhood growing up in Arizona. Here's like a couple funny stories, a very quick one. When we moved to Arizona, right next to our house was a dairy farm. And so driving home, it smelled like crap. And then went back a couple of years and the dairy farm was removed and it's Lockheed Martin. And so you can imagine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's completely changed. It's like Orbital across the street. You got Lockheed here, like Intel, PayPal. Like it's kind of amazing how much has changed in the past couple of years. But
yeah, I would say
my kind of childhood growing up there, and then I'm out here for school. Went to Stanford, kind of undergrad, studied CS, and then have somewhat stayed in the Bay since. So that's a little bit about me, and then kind of the story about Serif is it's quite personal actually. Like when I was a kid, my dad had an accident and he lost his vision, and because of that, I would have to constantly go over to his computer and help him kind of just do the most simple things, like lost a credit card and it took him half a day to figure out how to get a new one, and it ended up just being me doing all of these tasks for him, almost like me being his assistant. And so kind of growing up, I just had this feeling that like most software was crap and like we need to be building things that just help people. And so that kind of instilled in me this feeling that like I want to build things that just help people, or like make life easier. And so Serif is almost like the culmination of all these kind of lessons. And like we said in the beginning, we call it like an AI executive assistant. And what that means is that we want to help you achieve that idea of peace of mind. Like we want to help you get what you want to get done. Make sure that like nothing falls through the cracks. Make sure that we can save you time on things that are kind of dragging you down, like email, and in the future more things. But there's a quick kind of like a backstory on me.
I think what would be really great to hear, honestly, is kind of how this guest came up. Like, why did we choose Kevin? Like, let's get into that. So
I agree. Okay, so Isaiah had this idea for a podcast because we're always meeting interesting people in our industry. My background is marketing and real estate. So I work in both industries, and a lot of the marketing we do is for real estate and mortgage. But Isaiah's had this really cool idea of just trying to get to other leadership and just talk about the things that are affecting these industries. And I am a big the minute I've been using ChatGPT since it first came out, like I think I've probably 3 months with it coming out, I started dabbling in it. So I have a lot of interest in AI and how it's going to change the world and how it'll make us better. What areas will we get worse at? So I'm really interested in. I'm always looking for opportunities. So I had actually been looking. I get 100 emails to companies, emails from everybody, and I was just getting way too many emails and it was hard for me to keep up with those emails. So I had tried, I think it was 4 different AI email services. And a lot of them organized emails. Some kind of started getting into drafting emails, but they didn't really do anything for me. I never saw a change in my productivity. And so when ChatGPT started getting stronger, and I think it's when the latest version might have been the version before that of deep search kind of came out for ChatGPT, I basically Googled all email, AI email assistants. And when I got the list, I put it into ChatGPT. I said, tell me which one's the safest, which one's the best for productivity, which one's going to which one's been around the longest, which one has the best reputation. So I asked it a number of questions to kind of vet these. And one of the funny things is it came up with Serif, and I had never heard of Serif before. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And you had checked a few boxes on ChatGPT. And so I decided I'll look into it, clicked on Serif, and thought, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And so I gave it a try. And when I first started with this, and it's not that long ago, this is how much progress this company has made. When I first started with it, it didn't even have Microsoft connected yet. And one of the companies uses Microsoft, one of the companies uses Google. So I used it with Google, the Google account or Gmail that I had. And it started working pretty well, but I had reached out to Kevin. It said the CEO, you could email the CEO on the website. So I reached out thinking I'm definitely not going to be talking to him. And he responded very quickly and said, hey, don't worry, it's coming out. But since that's what you need, I'm going to go ahead and comp this month for you so you can try it out and see if it works for you. And I thought, well, that was really nice. I didn't even ask for that. So then after that, I came up with another issue. I was like, hey, how does this work? And it was more of a question than an issue. I didn't understand how to use it. And, you responded again right away. And I was like, am I actually talking to the CEO of this AI company? Like, that is just not normal at all. Normally with AI companies, you can't talk to anybody. You get a chatbot for customer service. So it was just very interesting. And then you came back on and told me and emailed me randomly like, hey, Outlook's up. Like, you remember that I wanted Outlook. And so then I added that account. And just from where it started to where it's been, the tremendous growth it's had, I tell everybody about Serif because I've seen a change in my productivity. Okay. And like I said, I use a lot of AI. I use every tool out there. I've used anything that can tell me it's going to save me time. And this is one of the only ones it has. So when we were looking for a guest, I told Isaiah, we have to talk to, to Kevin. Not only is he a super good person, just in general, like the way he founded his company, the way he operates his business, he doesn't take the human element out of it just because he's an AI company. And so because of that, I was like, we have to talk to him. It's super relevant on what we're trying to do with Table and how we're trying to use technology and AI to advance our marketing. Like, I guess I would put it as trying to get more out of our day in marketing. And I think this really helps. And so it was a no-brainer for me when that came up. I was like, Kevin, can you do me a favor? Would you like to? And he graciously agreed. So we appreciate that.
Very excited
Uh,
about this.
yeah. So I would love to talk a little bit about how long you've kind of been in business and where you feel like you're trying to go. And also a little bit about who you kind of target.
Yeah. Let's start with kind of like who we target and then what the first like a couple of months of the business even look like. And then kind of how we almost like want to build this company, like the way that we operate. And so I think what's most important first is like who we build it for. Because that kind of like sets the culture of like the products, kind of everything. And so the best way that I describe it is we build for kind of the small businesses in the world that are kind of like facing other people. And so it's like client facing professionals that run the world. And the reason why I say like rest of the world is because a lot of times when you build companies in kind of like Silicon Valley and tech, you end up building for other tech people. And so you see a lot of these AI email assistants or even like your AI assistants in general build for like the little bubble, which is here in like San Francisco. And then you just end up with a ton of products that are way too confusing and are not able to be used by kind of people actually running their business. Because you're running your business, you don't really have time to like figure out how to like connect like a new automation to something. You just want something that like really can actually help and like understands you and like integrates into your life seamlessly. And that's a lot of kind of the product decisions we've made are stemming from kind of that persona. And so it's really exciting because I feel like, Dina, you're like the perfect persona. It's like you have multiple businesses, you have so many hats, you have like no time. And it's not like, I can't go to you and be like, here, sit down with me for like 2 hours, this new thing. It's like, that's just not something that people are open to doing. It's more like, let me just get this thing where you can click a button, trains on you, secure it's safe, but then it just integrates into your day to day. It's like you just use email like you normally do. The drafts are there. You can save time. And then over time, like as we get more advanced, then we can kind of like do more things, but we have to earn that kind of trust first. So it's kind of like who we serve. And then back to kind of this idea of like how long we've been around, like the first couple months, it's probably been about a year. The first couple months of the company, we were just developing the thing to get it to work, right? Because like writing an email is very challenging because how I email you is very different from how I email my co-founder, also very different from how I email my mother. So and so imagine like me like emailing my mother, like just very professional like tone. She's going to be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
So it's like if you're able to write an email that someone sends, it means that you understand how they write to each specific person. It means that you understand how they make decisions. Also, kind of what their business context and like facts are. Like this pricing is like this for this product line. This pricing is like this, and as well as kind of like preferences. Like these are the kinds of people that I like to kind of schedule ASAP, and these are the kinds of people that like maybe if I have time, I'll schedule. And so there's a lot of these like it's almost like you have to build a clone of yourself in order to do email correctly. And so for many months, it just wasn't working. And we just went through so many iterations until it did. And it's so surprising. Like, I don't know how you found us. ChatGPT is like kind of crazy because we're starting to get traffic from there. We're starting to build that brand. But like you kind of came in to us at like the perfect time where like things were starting to work. And now it's like, works in Gmail. Let's bring it to Outlook. Like, it's like start to like really expand. But that's been really fun.
Well, I also think that our relationship was built on being founders and like kind of newer founders and on these companies. And so the beautiful thing about this is we've picked each other's brain a lot on a lot of like things that are happening. I've been able to be a case study for you guys and tell you like, hey, what if it did this? Or what if this happened? Or even the industries you're going after, because I think two of the biggest ones are marketing and real estate, which just happens to randomly be both of the industries I'm super involved in and run. And so it was such a perfect fit. And I loved how interested you were in those. And so it's been super amazing. I can tell you that, I've used, I've got my business partner using this and Serif and in another company. And it was kind of funny because we can see our serifs talking to each other. And when we do that at the end of our email, we'll be like, you just got serifed. Like, it's we kind of say to each other because it is, when you say that it learns and it develops, like I think what people don't understand is the level in which this acts as an assistant is insane. So here's a perfect example. I'll get an email. Within less than a minute of me getting that email, a draft will show up and it'll say, hey, here's the suggested, here's what the suggestion is for the response. Not only will it write the email for me, it will check my calendar if there's dates involved. So it'll check my calendar and it'll tell me and it'll respond saying, hey, Joe Smith, here is my available time to meet. You can pick it. And it's because my calendar is connected to it. So it actually can search that. Secondly, if it's unsure, it'll give you options. It'll say in all red, you can either do this or you can do that. And then it'll write 2 different emails for you. It also, on its own, and this is like the thing that people are always like, wait, what? On its own, it will copy people that it thinks should be involved. And it'll set that rule for itself. So perfect example is my art director is Tyler. And if there's any emails from video, it will automatically copy him so he is in the loop, or it will defer to him and assign the email saying, hey, Tyler, can you check into this? I've never seen anything do it. And the level of accuracy in which it does it is insane. Now, this is without me setting up anything besides connections. Okay, it learned this all on its own. And yes, it does take a little bit of time for it to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but it literally figured out who I was and does it better. The thing that I love the most about it is before, if I really wanted to understand, or if I wanted to write a complex email and I wanted it to come across super professional, or I wanted it to come across with more detail than I would normally put, I might throw that into ChatGPT, have it write it, and then I will rewrite it in my own wording. This has a different writing style than ChatGPT. You can spot ChatGPT emails or posts or any writing a mile away. Okay, at least I can. Um, Especially if you're lazy with ChatGPT. With Serif, it doesn't do that. It literally starts to. It doesn't overdo it. It doesn't use language I normally wouldn't use. It really starts. It gives you a perfect balance, I feel, of me plus adding maybe a little more professionalism in there. Maybe at times, maybe I want to write a gnarly email, but my Serif holds me back and will
It'll
make it a little more professional.
restrain you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it pumps the brakes on me a little
Yeah.
bit. So it's just, I don't know, Kevin. I think you guys have done an amazing job at really figuring out that balance. But I think um, the speed in which it learns, I think, is really crazy. So one of the things I think is really important for us to kind of discuss is there's people who are always skeptical of AI. Like the thought of a founder or a CEO turning over their inbox to somebody, is very concerning. And so I think they don't understand sometimes, the level of productivity that it will give back to you, the amount that makes you stronger and faster. So what would you say to people who think that AI is replacing them, or now I have to fire my assistant because I have AI. I have very different views on that. And I would love to hear from you on what you feel like AI is doing to kind of like the workforce, like, creating something like Serif. What does that do to the workforce, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's funny because I think 20% of our users actually have human executive assistants. And so it's like, we're not replacing their human EAs. Like, their EAs are actually using Serif to spend less time on email so that they can do more interesting tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about our businesses in comparison to some of these like other products that try to like replace a specific role, like we want to be almost like the right hand person to the kind of entrepreneur, to that like realtor, to that kind of like firm owner. We want to be almost a like superpower for them. Like they should delegate to us. We should be able to handle things. They should trust us, and we should be able to help them make sure nothing falls through the crack again. And it's closer to like making you 100x more like productive. Like we say like internally, our large vision is like if we're successful, one person plus Serif should be able to run a like $1 billion business, right? Like towards like 10 years down the road, like we want to get to the point where like we understand how you make decisions, you trust us, and we're able to kind of negotiate on your behalf in the real world and almost like be your like microphone. And so it's a very different kind of ethos because there's a lot of other companies that are like this type of sales role, like an SDR, sales development rep, who usually kind of finds leads. Like we want to build an AI version of that so that you don't have to hire more and you could replace them. And I think what we've seen is that like it's like some of those work and then some of what we're doing also works. There's probably going to be a mix of both in the future.
I like that. I'm a firm believer too that I don't use AI to replace anybody. I don't think that it's there quite yet in a lot of areas, maybe in some, but just not in mine quite yet. And but I use it to make us more efficient, faster, stronger. If you're
You have to, yeah.
if you're trying to figure out how to communicate something, or what's the best way to get them to understand, because I'm a firm believer in, communication's only like truly reached if the other person receives what you're saying. Not if you tell them, but if they actually receive what you're saying. And so for me, that's how I'll use AI, is to ensure that they're actually receiving the information. So whether it's changing the way that the style, or bullet pointing it, or maybe they need really long explanations. I think that's the way I kind of like use AI to kind of help me get there. But I do agree with you in that there's going to be so many changes, and I know that there's going to be a lot of positive changes, and I think people, it's not going to go anywhere. I think people need to understand, like, how do you adapt so that you don't get left behind and use to your advantage. To me, it's a clear advantage for me in my business and my companies. In the way I work every day, it's been a clear advantage in the way I do day-to-day business.
In the past like year or two, AI has somewhat changed the baselines. Like you kind of need to be adopting some of these tools at least so that you can kind of keep up.
I would say, I think Kevin, you did a great job explaining a bit about how it's not there to replace the EAs of the world. And when we talk about, I mean, we've been seeing the landscape change the last 3 years, three-ish years. Like so much of AI content's out there, so many different companies are out there, and we're seeing a lot of different AI content on social media where people are already skeptical of like what they're looking at. And I think just to jump back into Serif and a bit about of what you guys provide, like the service and all that, there was a little bit of a mention of like, hey, how do we do I feel comfortable giving this access to my inbox? And I guess like security, privacy, and all that. Do you mind? I know to us it's pretty understandable of like, hey, this is safe. But I think everyone in general, not everyone, but a lot of people out there in general who may be skeptical, I think it'd be great to hear from you to talk about a little bit about that security function.
Yeah, 100%. I think from day one it was like, if we're not secure, we have no company because no one trusts us.
Yeah.
And so it's not like we want to be secure. It's like we have to be secure. And so there's a couple of things we kind of decided very early on that we wanted to do to get us to that. So one very clear example is we don't actually save any of your emails. Like how Serif works is within the first 10 minutes, we train a custom model, very personal to you, which is why if your teammate comes on, you have to have 2 seats because we keep all the data completely separate. So you train your own model, and then we never kind of store your emails. And so you don't have to worry about like, even if I wanted to, I will not able to kind of like read anything. It's just, it's more of like, how do we make sure it's like can't, or like, how do we make it so like you can't even do it instead of like, you won't do it. A big thing for us. And then after we kind of train that model, you'll have access to all of that data. And so the user of Serif, they can go to dashboard.serif.ai. They can see everything that's learned. They can see all the kind of the preferences, all of the like facts, all of that information. You can go in and you can delete anything that's bad. Like you can say, I don't actually want Serif to know this type of information. You can remove it.
Nice.
If you want at any moment in time, you kind of just like nuke everything. And then your system will kind of just be useless because it won't be kind of personal to you, but you can if you wanted. And it's really like, let's make the like information we have on a person explicit and let's show them. And then there's other like technical security things we're doing. If you were just like SOC 2 compliance, we're in that audit period. So what that means is that every time like anything happens with data, there's like a very clear audit log. All of our systems have been kind of like pen tested. And so to answer your question, like even broader, like I think trust is the number one thing for executive assistants products. And if you don't have trust, you don't have the product. So it's kind of like our way to build trust, because down the road, we want to like use that trust to help people with more higher like agency tasks like scheduling or like automatically following up. And so the way that we think about it is like trust and reliability are like the top 2 kind of pillars.
Nice. I like how you said that you could go in and, remove some of things through the Serif, and even like so much like reset it, which to me, it sounds like you can just fire Serif and then rehire Serif to like train it to be like more aggressive, more nicer. Like so
Fire Serif and
I'm like, you know what, this Serif, you're fired. I'm going to get a new Serif in, and we're gonna train to be a little more aggressive.
Because over the development, like we've gone through a couple versions, and so for people who signed up a long time ago, like theirs might not be as smart, and so they're like, "Do you want to nuke it and like retrain it?" And then they're like, "Yes, then you can do it." And then it forgets everything, and then it retrains.
That's cool.
But it's definitely like, I think the big lesson that we had is it has to be personal to each user. Because if it's not, then like you said, like it's going to sound like ChatGPT, and then no one wants to receive an email that's ChatGPT. Like You have to sound like
Yeah. Right.
I want to touch a little bit on playbooks and kind of what it's learned on its own for me. So, to your point about the way the dashboard works and how it learns and how you can remove things, one of the things that I found so interesting, besides when I go into mine, it said like anytime there's anything related to video, copy the art director, Tyler, which it picked up on just from my emails. Well, I didn't even know this about myself. It taught me a little something. It said, she likes to schedule meetings between 11 and 2. Like, I guess that's my sweet spot for meetings. And it tries to accommodate during that time, which is great because I really do not like super early meetings and I really do not like late in the afternoon meetings. So it did get my sweet spot, but it basically said it was based off of what they kind of had seen. So I thought that was really cool. And but I would love to. So when I started using that, I started noticing that, right? And I think these are rules, right? They're called rules in the dashboard. But tell me about playbooks, because this to me is how you roll this out with the team. This is like the future of onboarding your team members onto something like this or making it an enterprise solution for a company. So this is something you and I talked heavily about. How do we, how can you tweak this for our industries, and what information can I give you to help you tweak it for our industry? So tell us a little bit about playbooks and what they are.
Yeah. So let me quickly kind of do a preface for that. So we have playbooks, but we also have, let's say we have 3 types of knowledge. And what we found is there's 3 types of like knowledge that can capture how someone like thinks and how someone emails. And those 3 types, again, are playbooks, which are closer to like SOPs, like processes. And then you also have kind of preferences, which are like kind of when I like meeting scheduled, how I like my day set up. And then you kind of have your factual information. So with these 3, you're able to kind of paint a picture of like how someone wants to take an action in the real world. And playbooks, like you said, is also one of our most exciting kind of features. And what playbooks allow you to do is decide the behavior of your system. So, for example, you can have a playbook that says like, whenever someone asks about a support query, I want you to kind of triage it in like this way. And then I want you to figure out if it's a technical issue or if it's a kind of refund request, and then kind of break it down even more. So like how you would train a new employee with like a ton of like documents that go through all the different processes, or maybe like even videos kind of walking through what kind of the job would look like. You could think of Serif playbooks as like that type of content. And this type of content is trained automatically. And so in the first couple minutes, again, in training, we generate these playbooks from your kind of past emails. A lot of the times we try to like implicitly guess things, like you like to schedule meetings in the morning. And this is more of like we detected a pattern and let's try to like figure out if this is something that like is true and let's put it there. And then because it's like human editable, you can kind of tweak it. But the really exciting thing with playbooks is, again, because you can use them to decide the behavior in a system, you can almost like set an assistant up for a team or for a vertical before you even kind of jump into Serif. So for example, like in real estate, which Dina knows much better than me, she was explaining to me kind of like a lot of these like workflows that happen in real estate that don't happen in legal. And so those workflows, you can kind of pop them directly into playbooks. And then you can upload those playbooks to Serif. And then you can say like, I want this playbook to be shared across all the people in my team. And now you have an assistant that is, can think of as trained for real estate. So again, it's another way for us to train assistants, but with like human language. So it's just like how you would train kind of a human assistant. You can use that same content, just upload it to Serif and train it that way.
Well, the way I look at it too is like if I'm bringing in account managers, customer service people, I can set the tone in which that they will be responding in the future.
Yeah.
I can decide how those responses, whether it's pricing, whether it's, time management, whether it's complaints, whether it's, meeting schedules, all of those things can be predetermined really and take a lot off of people's plate. And I think that people, have a hard time sometimes thinking of giving all of that up and you lose the human connection. That isn't the case. What I do a lot of the time is go in the morning, or in the evening. It's usually in the evening actually, when everything's nice and quiet. And I go into Serif or into my Outlook and I just look at all my drafts. What do I have to respond to? Mm-hmm. And I'm not always going to use it exactly as is. I could, just by the way, it absolutely could. But sometimes I might want to tweak just one thing, or maybe I want to add someone else to that. Maybe I want to remove someone because this may seem a little more private or personal. Then I can do that. But it saved me the time from initiating, thinking of what I wanted to say. It already kind of knows. And so instead of changing a copy to one person or removing or adding an email address or changing a wording or even an email signature or a sign off, it's written the bulk of it. And so that's how it really saves me time. And so I think this is a very big deal when it comes to the industry and how we are able to onboard people moving forward, because it takes them a while to learn the culture. It takes them a while to learn the clients. But the biggest communication with the clients is usually through email in real estate and marketing. So the fact that I can create this playbook that will, provide the company culture or be specific to our clients is huge. It saves time. It saves training resources. Instead of learning everything, you can kind of teach it. Here's Serif and learn how Serif communicates, because that is the company communication standard. If that makes sense.
The onboarding piece, because I think what we've noticed is like, say you have like 10, let's use sales, simple example, 10 salespeople, and like there's like one or two that are like really great, that are the best, and they draft emails and they send emails that get deals closed. You kind of have new people that are onboarding onto the team. What you can do with these playbooks is you can capture what these extremely good kind of salespeople do. You can share it across the team, and then now everybody kind of get a peek in like a personalized way. It's like this new salesperson, they start to receive emails, and then the drafts are essentially like, here's how the best salespeople are responding to this. And then you can kind of use this almost as like a way to onboard by just doing your work. And it almost like increases the value from just saving time to kind of upskilling everybody in your org. And so it's a way to like, you can imagine this across kind of teams as well, but it's a way to really kind of in the process, like teach everyone.
Yeah. I think what will be interesting to the real estate industry is, I think in servicing a client, real estate agents live on their emails and text messages. Our industry is notoriously bad for communication issues sometimes, and the really good agents are on top of it. But I cannot tell you how many times we hear, "Hey, I haven't heard back on this," or "I haven't heard back," from multiple entities when it comes to closing on a home.
Yeah.
So I think what would be really interesting is to see how this evolves from, kind of dealing with what's happening in your inbox to lead management, CRMs. That's a huge space in which I could see Serif being a big player in. If you can figure out how to connect and work with CRM so that real estate agents who are out there trying to get more leads using their CRM for that, or brokerages who are trying to recruit are able to use their CRMs for that, I could just see a really open space for you guys there too. Because there's one thing to get the HTML branded emails. I think those are really important, but there's also the ones that feel a little more personal.
Yeah.
Most CRMs, they are very generic and very vanilla. And I think that Serif being able to adapt to the person sending it could actually make some really great progress for people there.
It's definitely the direction we want to go. We're about to launch our HubSpot integration, and then we'll kind of go into the kind of like deeper integrations. The way I think about it is like, we want to do three things really, really well. We want to help you manage the people that you really care about. Either it's kind of the people close to you, or it's kind of leads, prospects. We want to manage your communication. We want to help you save a lot of time kind of pre-drafting emails, like handling coordination that you don't have to yourself. And then we want to help you manage your time. So that gets to kind of your scheduling bits, like, but even a layer above scheduling, instead of just kind of getting a meeting scheduled, like, how do I set up my day so that I don't have like holes in my day because of meetings? Because like, when I'm trying to like build and I'm trying to code, if I have a meeting at like 1 p.m., then it's like, I kind of like it's like a hole punch. I got a hole in my day, and now I can't really like zone in. I just like am kind of screwed for the hour and the before and the hour after. And so it's really like, how do I set up my day so I can achieve what I want? So those are the kind of three things. And like you said, CRM is going to be a big piece.
Yeah, I think that's amazing to hear. I think you guys will do really good in that space and be able to make an impact there. One of the things I wanted to touch on that you kind of mentioned, so I have a bit of a personal story about this. So you mentioned your father being sick or losing his eyesight, right? And you having to, this was a brainchild of you having to be kind of an assistant to him and help him through that. I have my own personal story similar to what you're talking about. So 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with advanced cancer for the second time. And I was an EVP of a large company. And so, working 12, 15-hour days, nonstop. I mean, it was it was a very consuming position. I loved my job, loved everything about it, but it was, really tough. And so when I was on treatment, the times that I was on treatment, I would actually get behind in my emails. I mean, you have to imagine how many emails as an executive vice president of a large real estate firm, how many emails I was getting, and it was really hard for me to catch up. I worked through the whole time I was on treatment. I worked through. And so on the days when I was down for treatment, I had an amazing boss who was like, hey, work as much or as little as you can. Like, you've been with us for 20 years. Like, we know, like, we got you kind of thing, thankfully. And, and so it was hard for me to catch up. And I remember having one person who was like, I didn't get an email response. They knew I was on treatment, but they were like, I didn't get an email response. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it just was so frustrating for me because it's like they understood the level in which I was trying to keep up and stuff. It would, be a different story. But when I saw Serif, I just thought that would have changed my life. Like, during that time, that would have really helped me so much. And I think a lot of us are impacted by health issues, family health issues, our work. And this is a way to kind of help and ensure that you're not always falling that far behind. The second example to that is I have a family member who I love dearly who is suffering from treatment. He has a very high profile position. And I told him about Serif. And I said, if you're getting behind, I wish I had this when I was going through my treatment. I'm telling you, this will really change things for you. And he was like, can you please send me the information? And he's like, because I do need help. Yeah. But that was just very touching to me because that's, I wish 3 years ago I had that for me.
Yeah.
And I was able to pass that on to him and say, hey, this is a game changer for me, healthy. I can only imagine what it would be for you while you're in treatments,
Yeah.
So I do see it not just for the super active CEO conquering the world, but those of us who may have a setback and need some help, and not even realize it, how helpful this could be. So I wanted to share that with you because I see a perfect case study for that.
Comparing that stories. I'm glad that you're healthy now.
Yes. I'm very happy too. But I just recognize having used it now, I see the opportunities out there for people. And it's funny because I was recently with another a charity that we kind of work with in San Diego, and I was telling them about it too, and they were like, "What? Oh my gosh!" The amount of emails to deal with donations or volunteers or programs. I mean, there's so many, and just to help kind of get caught up. And so so that brings me to something they had said, which is that they were having issues with IT because IT didn't really understand it or know what it was. So what do you say to somebody who's like, hey, they're unsure, they have, they work at a corporation, their IT people need to vet it. Like, how would you go about that? If I was somebody and my roadblock was like, maybe like my IT team didn't understand separate capabilities of the security, well, how would they go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would answer a couple ways. First, I would say we have all the kind of the security certifications in order to kind of push our app into kind of the marketplaces. We've gone through kind of pen testing. So we have kind of your CASA pen testing tests. We have kind of your SOC 2 audits, and we have all those things. usually for these big organizations, what happens is they'll send kind of the security team to us, and then I'll kind of either do the parts that I can or push it to our kind of internal engineers, and they'll fill out kind of the security questionnaires. And so, at least for the larger organizations, there's usually kind of the security process. And very happy to just like send that to me. I'll go through, and we've been filling out these questionnaires, and they get approved, and we've been able to kind of get adopted into like law firms, kind of hospitals, like the people who you imagine would have very tight security. And so,
Yeah, and the oversight on those with HIPAA and things of that nature. So that's really interesting to know that. Um, that's great. So give me, and Isaiah, I know you have some questions, but I'm going to ask this last one before you get into yours. Big picture. So where is Serif in the next 6 months and the next year? Because AI runs too fast. I can't ask you in 5 years. Because in 5 years, I might have a hologram answering my emails. I don't even know. So as of so we'll go 6 months and a year. What's next for Serif? What can me as a consumer, as your customer, what can I expect on the next 6 months to a year?
it moves so fast. Like we think in quarters, because like next quarter, like something's going to be completely different. And it's like, it's at every, like, it seems like at every week or every other week, we have like a brand new, like LLM that breaks the benchmarks. And so that opens up new opportunities. The way that we think about it is like every time there's a new kind of breakthrough, either from us kind of fine tuning a model or it's kind of the market having released a new model, it opens up new doors. And all those doors, they kind of, the thresholds are kind of trust thresholds. So what I mean by that is right now what we're working on is let me help you schedule your meetings end to end. And so instead of just kind of a scheduling draft, if I'm confident that I can schedule your meeting with 100% accuracy, and then all you have to do is say like, Serif, can you help me schedule this for next week? I can kind of take over as you and make sure that that task is done completely. I'm not at that 100% confidence right now, probably at 90%, but 90% is not enough because if 1 out of 10 of your meetings kind of scheduled correctly, you would never use it. And so it's really like we have to get that trust bar. And so in 6 months, the way that I would think about it is we're very confident we can get the trust bar for 3 things: scheduling, reminders, and then follow-ups. And so you have like a complex task, you can pass it to Serif and you say like, I want you to remind me next quarter, or I want you to follow up with them until this task gets done. A lot of times like things get dropped unless you kind of keep on pushing. And Serif can understand how you push and then almost like handle that completely. And so you can think of it as evolving from just a drafter to starting to actually take actions for you. All again powered by that knowledge base. And then in the year mark, then's where I think it gets really exciting. So you should be able to do things in a year like, I want to interview 10 customers next week. And Serif should be able to look into your CRM and find the 10 most important customers in the space that you're interested in. It should be able to reach out to them as you. So it sounds like Kevin reached out to them, and it should be able to kind of schedule the meetings with them so that when I wake up next week, I have 10 meetings. And if anything happens, if the other person's like, why are you emailing me? Then it'll pause and it'll kind of loop me back in. And so it's that concept of like, we want to be able to get to full automation of trust. If anything happens that's out of the norm, we want to be able to confidently say that this is out of the norm and kind of like loop you back in. And so in a year, you can think of it as like, we'll get to really kind of like your assistant level product. And the other bit I'm very excited by is I think a lot of the value will be proactive. And so you don't have to remember using this thing. It's like, it's like you want to close this deal. Like it looks like it's been 3 days. You should probably follow up with them. Here's the draft I've already prepared. Like you said this in your last meeting. You should probably remind them about it. And then kind of just making sure that like what you want to get done gets done.
I think that's amazing because I think of, let me put it into real estate terms. If you have a listing, you did an open house and you had 10 people come through the doors that showed interest in some capacity, right? And you could say, get me the list of those people who inquired or had interest or I flagged as having interest. get me set up appointments with them or set up a follow-up call, whatever that looks like. This is something I could see real estate agents using easily.
Yes.
But from the marketing side, even being like, hey, we need to schedule our monthly analytics meetings. Do it with all the, here's give them these options, all in one swoop versus doing it individually. Setting up, any of our creative meetings, even internally with the team. And there's so many case studies. And I know right now what it does is I get an email from my Serif assistant that basically says, that knows that someone's asked me for a time, right? A meeting. And it will say, would you like me to schedule this for you? Just let me know, or send off this link, my Calendly link to them. And so it asks me that already right now. So it's already starting to be more proactive than it was 2 months ago when I was using it. So I think that's been a fantastic add to kind of like the service that it's providing. So I think I think the thing that I'm most excited about is our conversations about how it can help with customer service and client retention. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like. You and I have been diving a little bit into the back end of what that can kind of evolve into. So I'm excited for that. I know it's not the highest priority of your guys' launches, but the fact that we're even having the conversation to see how this can be used for other agencies or even other brokerages, I think is amazing.
Yeah. I think in the next phase, we're going to get a lot deeper kind of into a couple of these verticals, like real estate being a huge one, kind of agencies being another big one, people being another big one. And then kind of just really sit with a lot of people and deeply understand their workflows. And then say how can we set up Serif so that it follows these workflows out of the box for them, so they don't have to kind of think about it. And then how can we be proactive for them? Because an assistant for a lawyer is very different from an assistant for a real estate agent. So it's how can we kind of teach a Serif before and it's a real estate assistant even download Serif? How do we make sure day one they get an amazing experience that's tuned to what kind of role they have.
Yeah. And you guys were able to grow without really any marketing. When I first came on, I was like, what's going on with your Instagram? What's going on with your website? And I was amazed that you guys did really no marketing. Yeah. And you guys were able to grow as quickly as you guys have been. Not everybody's that lucky, but I mean, it just shows you have a really good product though. I mean, because I tell it to everybody I know, so I'm sure others do the same, when it comes to your guys' product. So
thank you so much. Without people like you, we would not be where we are.
I know. I think you guys will be doing a lot more coming soon though, because of where you guys are at now. The next push, you could just completely dominate this space with your product. You really could, just based on what I've seen. And I know Grammarly just purchased Superhuman, and there's been some other, what I've seen is other acquisitions in this space. Yeah. The fact that you guys are, kind of independent and really working on the best product. I feel like the product matters so much to you. When you talk about trust and you talk about ensuring and the way that you listen to concerns or questions. Yeah. It is such there's not those layers. And I know someday there will be, but I know it won't be until you have the product where you really want it to be, So I think that's great.
I think no matter what, I'm going to always be some part in support. Because you have to have that direct communication. Because if you don't, then you kind of lose, you just lose kind of who the customer is, and then you lose the product. But you're right. We're just right now we're just engineers and a couple of researchers just kind of building things. And so kind of in the next stage, we definitely need to figure out marketing. But right now it's we just want to build the best product, and that's really all we care about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when you're ready, let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
No better team than us. We're in the industries and we know your product well. So just a small little pitch for Table Media really quick.
Yeah.
Isaiah, do you have questions that you want?
Yeah, I do. I think we've done a great job learning about Serif and really seeing the value proposition and really answering a lot about it. So thanks for answering those questions for us. Also, as part of this podcast is for other small business owners, startups, people who are really entrepreneurs who are trying to get into this field, who may already be established or are still, pursuing this. Serif is your second startup, correct? Okay. So from someone who's done this twice now, talk to us a little bit about some of the unexpected bumps that you run into.
Yeah, I have a lot of unexpected bumps.
That makes me feel so much better being a founder
Yes.
too. Hearing someone else.
No, you don't know how many things that we've like built to try to get to where we are today. So many things have not worked. Like so before this company, James, my co-founder, and we actually started a company together right out of school. So right out of school, we started this company. It was called Include, and it was very similar, but it was kind of for the similar type of people. We were trying to build an automation platform. So we wanted to automate again stuff on the internet, and like that whole journey was a huge learning experience. And for example, like in the beginning, because we were just engineers, we wanted to build cool technology and not solve problems. And so that kind of led us astray very quickly. And what ended up happening is we kind of built this very, very powerful hammer. And then we were like searching for nails to hit with it. And so we were like, which nail should we hit this week? And then it just turned out that we weren't hitting any nails because there were no nails that needed this hammer that we built. And specifically, we built this automation platform, and we realized that people don't really need to be automating random things. They need to be kind of figuring out how to stay on top of things. They need to be figuring out how to communicate, not get a new credit card every day.
Right.
And so there's a lot of lessons in how we build companies that we had to learn the hard way, because we spent a year kind of building this thing and trying to get it into people's hands. And we saw people use it and then drop off next week. And so there's a lot of lessons in kind of the way that we build technology now. And so now when you hear me talk about things, it's always let's pick who we want to build for, kind of the real estates, kind of the business owners of the world, and then figure out where do they spend their time, and then figure out what can we build for them. And it's kind of a shift that took me quite a while to figure out. And then I think there's so many other smaller lessons. Just one summer, James and I, back in school, we tried to start another company building AI for factories. And so that was first way out of kind of the wheelhouse of things that we're interested in, but we just had this opportunity come up, and it turns out we weren't excited about that. So also figuring out things that we're not excited by. But a lot of lessons, a lot of failures, a lot of things that didn't work.
So do you think that as a founder, this is some place I struggle with too, and Isaiah will tell you he's kind of gotten into that world since we started Table Media, but do you find balance tough when you're a startup?
I've set up my life where there is no balance, but I think I'm okay with that, at least because it's an explicit decision.
Right.
Where for the most part, I just kind of wake up and I work and then I go to sleep. I think it is one of those things, at least for me, it's these next couple of years, I'm very okay kind of giving up this balance in order to give it my best shot at building something generational. But I imagine one day in my life, I will want some balance. But it's very hard.
Forced into some balance. Yeah. I feel when you're building something exciting. So I left a great salary at a big company to start kind of this unknown thing, and never dreamt of being an entrepreneur before. That wasn't even, if the former owner had stayed owning that company, I would have stayed there forever and happily done so, on an executive level. But I for me, I have to be fulfilled. So I don't mind working hard for things that fulfill me.
Yes.
Whether it's working for someone else, working for myself, it is, if I'm fulfilled in what I'm doing and I feel like I'm helping people, I'm making a difference, I have no problem with that. So I'm similar to you in that it's a choice on how I work right now. I want to build Table to be the best company it can be. And so I love the way you phrase that. This is a choice that I'm making right now because I know that I'm building something generational. And that type of commitment, I think sometimes people look at it as a bad thing, but when you know you're not working just for today, you're working for 10 years from now, and you're willing to sacrifice today to get there. I think that there's so much positivity in that, and I think that it's underrated sometimes. I think balance sometimes is something that's a little more. I think it's, in theory, it sounds really nice, but when you're truly trying to build something strong, there will never be a true balance. Sometimes you may want to work less and there's not a real balance there. And sometimes you may want to work more and you're not going to have that balance there. But I think to be happy, it has to be your choice, right?
Yeah. That's like if you're forced by your boss to be like, you have to stay in the office until you sleep, like, of course I'm going to be like, I'm not going to do that. But it's like, I got myself into this. It's so like, I can only blame myself. But you're right. Especially like, I think in this space and time right now, like, again, like every week there's like a new AI startup. And if we are not moving that fast, we're going to lose. So not even it's just like everybody I think is moving faster than ever before.
So Kevin, what advice would you give? Because you and I are roughly around the same age. I think we graduated college pretty much. I graduated college 1 year before you, 18. So you and I are around the same age. And I think our age is typically where a lot of these founders are kind of like really deciding to make that leap from the working salary or going career from someone else and then doing their own thing. What advice do you have for this younger generation of entrepreneurs?
This is not my quote. I think I've heard it from somewhere, but it's like the thing that most people lack is courage, not intelligence. And I think that's like very true. It's like a lot of people can start things that are amazing. But the reason they don't is because they don't want to take like the first leap. I think my advice is like, at least for a lot of people, especially probably people listening to your podcast, like you could probably just start a company. I think it's really like you have to take that first step. But then also, I think you have to be okay with it not working for a while. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time for it to pick up. Like for me, again, it's took many tries, many years until something started to pick up. And so I think you just have to take the first step, I guess.
I think it goes back to like, we don't need to overthink it so much on, you know what I mean? A lot of it is a lot of it is a mental thing.
A lot of times, like you're right. Like you don't overthink, like you're not going to have everything figured out on day one. Like you just do something that like excites you. And then from doing that, you'll learn and then you'll just take the next step and the next one. And then before you know it, like you'll be somewhere.
I can't tell you how many times like I thought everything has to be right before we can move forward. And it really put me behind. Yeah. The other thing is when you talk about courage, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in the room with people who were so unqualified to be in that room. And I think people always think that everyone in that room is the most qualified and the best that there is. And I cannot tell you how many times I've sat there and been like, how did you get, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but I just felt like, oh, I can do this job and this person's doing that job, or they're the ones making the call on that. I absolutely can do this job because I think people get that, I think the overused term is imposter syndrome, right? Like everyone's thinking like they can't do that. But being someone who's been in many rooms, that's why I called it table media is because, everyone has a seat at our table and I value what people say and their input. But I can tell you how many times where that wasn't happening in the table. And I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, like they don't even know the product we're talking about, or they don't even know the process. And not that you need to know every single thing as a leader, but at least, I was just surprised to know that. And it gave me comfort in saying like, hey, I do belong here. Yeah. I know what I'm doing here. And I think that's what I think a lot of the younger generation needs to understand, because it's what kept me from being an entrepreneur for as long as I did, because I thought, well, why me? And the more I looked at it, it's, the way I always look at things is, I have to care. I started a company because I care about people and I care about providing a good service. of course I wanted to make money, but that's not the reason why I started, this company is to just, make a lot of money. I was thinking like, I want to have fun. I want to like what I do. I want to wake up filled, satisfied. I want to feel like I'm making an impact, on everything that I'm doing. And with small businesses, and people who are starting their company out. That's why I love working with people like that, because I see the excitement or the fear in how are they going to get to that next level. And I want to be a champion and a cheerleader for that. So I think that's always been really exciting for me in being an entrepreneur, even though I'm a newly entrepreneur. But there's lessons we learn, and there's like a number one lesson like that I would give someone. I want to hear what your number one lesson like, or kind of the number one thing you would say, like if anything stands out in your journey as a founder and building multiple companies, what would that one thing be that you think all of us can take that back with us and use in our businesses?
Figure out who you want to build for, like who your customer is, and that customer should be someone that you really love, that you're able to kind of talk to all day, that you're excited to help, and then fix that, and then figure out products for them instead of the other way around. Because I think it's so easy, again, to kind of fall in love with an idea and then kind of get stuck in the idea and then try to figure out who it's for. And at least for me, like that's been the most helpful thing. It's just like, it's a way to kind of think about what you're building, and it applies to everything. It's like, if you want to like serve a specific type of like a client, like that's kind of who you set first. And then from there, then you figure out kind of the services that they need. And then you kind of like build your offering that way instead of like the other way around. That's at least been kind of the thing for me. That's probably the most helpful that's the thing I would tell my earlier self.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not useful for other people, but this is what I would tell younger Kevin.
Yeah, I like that. So I know that AI is everywhere, and it's very easy to get lost in the noise of AI. It's hard to decipher which tool is the best. You end up spending a lot of money, even if it's small money, on a lot of different programs because everyone says it's the next best thing. So can you give people advice on how to kind of shift through that noise and really bet a great product in when it comes to AI?
That's a great question. There is so much noise. It's because it's like so easy to take ChatGPT and like they call it like a wrapper, just like a little like interface on top of it, and then like go viral on social media, and then you just have like 100 of these. Honestly, like my biggest advice is just really learn one tool really well first. Like learn ChatGPT really, really well. Like figure out like how you can use it to not only write things, but also like think better. And then get super deep on that. And then I think you can think of like the core time kind of sinks in your day. Like if you spend huge amount of time on kind of like in meetings, then you may want to then look for kind of like a meeting tool. But there's a ton of tools that are always kind of shouting at you. Don't try to like find the tool, or I guess my take really is figure out like where you spend most of your time. And then you can even use ChatGPT for this. You can say like, here's my calendar, like here's what I did yesterday. Like, and then from that, figure out like where you're losing a lot of energy, and then look for like a tool in that space. And then you can, again, because you've learned ChatGPT so well and like deep research, you can use that to kind of pick the right tool. So for us, like the way that I think about my own set of tools is ChatGPT, I've learned really well. So I use it to kind of learn, research, create things. The other part of my day is spent in code. And so there's kind of tools that I use. And so like in each of the spaces, there's kind of probably one or two tools. Cursor is the one that I use. And then the other bit of time I spend on email. And so that's kind of like where Serif is. And so like if you spend a lot of time in one thing, then you should look for a tool. And if you don't spend a huge amount of time in it, then it's probably not super valuable. And so just stick with like the ChatGPT and then master it. There's a very big kind of gap between like how a kid uses ChatGPT, which is incredible. Like my mind's being blown with like how people are using it. Like they're asking ChatGPT for like everything. It's like, should I eat this for lunch? Should I like go to my friend's party? Like, it's almost like something that runs their life. And that's like a different level than just kind of using it to kind of copyright. And so like really learn how to use it well. And then you can kind of like take that experience and kind of bring it to other places.
Yeah, I think a lot of like my generation, we started using it more, I think for email ideation, like helping come up with ideas, some marketing. And you're right, the younger generation, I see it all the time, is like, oh, use this prompt to find out what type of person you are, or the people you connect with, or I have a really good friend, and I told her, put into ChatGPT and ask it, am I wrong in the way I'm seeing this thing? It's part therapist, it's part friend, it's part business coach, it's part, I think business partner at times. I think it could be used for so many things, and it's only going to expand upon that. So I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, you're 100% hit it on. The younger generation, they have a built-in friend kind of that they're asking these questions to. So
yeah. And then I guess the other one I would say is like pick a tool that where you trust the team that the tool will kind of grow and improve. And so if you pick kind of a tool that works today, but maybe they don't care about it too much, in 6 months, like then you're going to have to figure out how to use another tool. So you don't want to constantly be like learning things. Like pick something that like either the team really cares about, or is someone in your industry like kind of backs it. And then each of these tools will like ultimately like grow. And so like they'll start to do more and more.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think one of the things in choosing the right tools is that the company is focused on,
the thing,
expanding, growing, or making it better in some way. And you can tell the companies who don't. I mean, when you ask for a feature or you see that it's been asked multiple times,
right,
and it's still not there, you know that it's struggling in that area, especially when it comes to AI. The speed in which the capabilities are expanding are so vast and so quick that if you don't see an AI company adapting, then it's probably one of those ones who've kind of, like you said, I think you called it like a rap or a rapper, or kind of, I don't know the term, but
rapper.
yeah. So, and that was the opposite of my experience with Serif. You were growing so fast, it changes all the time. I mean, I think there was one time where I was like, hey, this changed. And you're like, yeah, we're literally sending out the email today that but I picked up on it so quick because I use it so much. And I thought that was like amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, like this has changed so much. So I just have to really commend you on what you've created. And I have to commend you on the speed in which you're creating. And tell you that you've made a phenomenal product that is impactful. I'm your perfect demographic, not only in industry and company size. I'm a small business owner. I'm trying to, I run a team. I'm trying to incorporate all these things, and I'm also very interested in AI. So, I kind of tick all those boxes for Serif, but I just, for what it's worth, from one customer, I will tell you that it's been impactful and it's really made a difference for me at Table Media.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You're definitely like the perfect customer. Like this is who we build Serif for. It's like we want to like help people like you in the world. Hopefully help everyone like you. And so that's kind of like.
Well, there's a lot of me's. I know a lot of people who need this help, and I keep trying to tell them. And I think it's the barrier of getting over the thought of something being in your email, and hearing a lot of what you said. I hope this encourages people to try it out. Give it 30 days. I always tell them, don't go less than 30 days. If you're going to try it, give it a full 30 days so it can truly learn how to help you more. If you're giving it less than that, you're really not giving it time. And it's a monthly subscription, so you might as well, And so I think I think everyone should, I hope that everyone tries it out. As long as it doesn't keep you too busy where you can't answer my emails.
It's okay. You're starting my company.
Yeah, I'm sure your Serif is like, when Dina emails, make sure I was kidding. If a random person. I get hit up all the time because I'm on LinkedIn. So, people see CEO or founder. So, the emails I'm talking about. And I'll get emails that say, hey, can I just set up 15 minutes to explain this product? Or is there a way and especially for maybe people who are a little more high profile or have to be way more protective of their time, is there a way in which Serif recognizes that this is not someone who's emailed them before, not someone they've connected with, and can kind of put guardrails on that or act as a barrier before someone, can read that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we call this kind of like, let's say just like cold messaging, like cold spam. We actually purposefully have like a AI kind of labeler that triages those into a label that's called like others or marketing. And so at some like crazy numbers, every day we process 1 billion tokens. So you think there's like 1 billion kind of like words around these types of emails. And so we kind of filter it out into a label that's like others marketing. And if you want to, you can go in and see everything. And if you don't, you kind of have it skip the inbox. And so you don't have to kind of like Serif will put those there. It won't kind of auto schedule those. It'll really just say like, this is probably not super important. If it is like an important person, then it'll definitely not be in there. It'll probably be in kind of like an FYI or needs response label.
So yeah, I was getting for a minute, it was responding to emails, marketing emails, right? And obviously that uses up the amount of emails I can send. So I put in a rule that just said, do not respond to those types of emails. And then, and now it doesn't. And the same thing goes for Monday.com.
Yeah.
I was getting notifications like, hey, a team member had commented on something and it was responding and I didn't need it to because it doesn't go anywhere when it does that. So I set up something that said, do not respond to those. But I know you and I are also going to be working on how we can incorporate that, which is great. So I think I've seen it work that way. And so what would you suggest? Is it a playbook? Is it a rule? What is the best way to filter that out? Or is it just labels? Like you said, is it literally you just go in and label it and then it'll automatically pick that up?
So the automatic label will pick it up. But one thing that we've tried to do is you can just email Serif as well. So you could just email Serif, like you could forward this cold spam to Serif and say like, just stop responding to this stuff like this. And then Serif will figure out what it needs to create. Like oftentimes it'll create a rule. Sometimes it'll create a playbook. But depending on kind of the information that it needs to learn, it'll figure out what it needs to do. And so I actually tell a lot of people, like, you don't actually ever have to go into the rules or the dashboard or the playbooks. Just email Serif and then Serif will learn. And so we try to like keep it to be like, you do your work in Gmail, you stay in Gmail, you shouldn't have to leave or Outlook. And so that's a good point because out of the box, we're not 100%, right? And so like a lot of times stuff will fall through the cracks. And that's kind of where being able to teach Serif helps you get to like higher accuracy.
I have an update request for you now. Can I name my Serif? Can we create so I can name my own Serif, my own assistant, and then that way when I email instead of
Actually,
Serif assistant, now I can start calling it something else.
let me write that down. That's a great idea.
I could be like, you know what? Let me have Lucy look into that for you. Then they'll get an email from Lucy.
Actually, that's interesting. We will probably have something like that.
I love that. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, today's been super informative and a lot of fun. I appreciate your time. I know you are very busy. And I think that for anybody out there looking for a great tool, please come check it out. How can they look for this product, Kevin?
Yeah, if you just go to the domain serif.ai, or if you just Google serif.ai or Serif AI, it should take you right to it. Exactly.
Just like his hat.
You can picture the logo because it's Times New Roman.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're watching this on video, you're going to see we're True Founders wearing our logos on our hats. If you're not, then how you can get to it is Googling serif.ai. And if there's, I really implore you guys to try it out. I think this is a great program for founders, for real estate agents, for marketing professionals. do yourself a favor, save some time with that. Thank you so much, Kevin. We couldn't have been happier. Thanks for being a great product for Table Media, and also a great person to be able to a great colleague now that we get to kind of work together and pick each other's brains. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Man, it's been so fun with you guys. I think big part of building Serif is being able to work with people like you guys. That drives me, and it's been really great.
Thank you. That means so much to us. So until next time, thank you everybody for listening, and we will talk to you soon.